Hello friends, so today's video, as the title implies, pretty straightforward. It's about some books that I need to reread. A lot of these are first books in series that I had read these and then I didn't continue on with the series even though I wanted to, and now it's just been way too long and I don't feel it would be fair to the sequels for me to jump into them now without rereading the first ones. That's true for the first few, and I feel so bad. I had put these on so many TBRs. I'd put them on series I want to finish this year type of videos, and I just didn't, and now, like I just said, I just need to reread the first ones. First up we have Bloodsong by Anthony Ryan. I'm not too upset about the idea of rereading this one because I loved Bloodsong and I love Valen, and I'm okay with rereading his story again. So this is one of those setups where you are seeing the present as the character is telling you about their past, and then the majority of the book takes place in the past. And I loved following this character. It's not exactly a super exciting, fast-paced page-turner of a book, but it takes its time, and every time I came to it, I just always felt like I was there. I was transported to this fantasy setting. Valen is somebody who is in what I always say is the Navy SEALs for kids, because they are training them to be elite soldiers. And I really enjoyed the childhood portion of his story as well. And then you follow him as he grows into a man. You see these friendships that he builds with some of the other boys. And then you see him having to question his role in the world. He's only ever really had to train to become this elite soldier, but then when he has to become a soldier, he's not his own person. He's used to following orders, but some of the orders he's given, he doesn't really think are right. And I love this character, and I loved the way the story unfolded, and I never picked up the sequels, so I need to reread this one. I could say basically the exact same things about the Queen of the Tearling. I loved the Queen of the Tearling. I felt our main character, Kelsey, who I actually remember her name. I just have to give a side tangent for a second. I don't know what's going on. I can't remember characters' names ever anymore. I'll just read a book and I'll be like, the main character, their love interest, their friend. I can't remember anybody's names. Anyway, I remember Kelsey's name. It's a pretty standard name. But I really enjoyed Kelsey as a main character. I definitely think the way that she's written, it doesn't shy away from showing realistic thoughts. And so sometimes Kelsey is very hard on herself, and sometimes she has thoughts that are maybe a little shallow, but that's real. That's how people are. However, what I really loved about this character is that they didn't let, whenever they would have these not super stellar thoughts, they didn't let that affect how they acted or the fact they were needing to step up. They always stepped up when they needed to step up, and I found her really heroic. If you don't know anything about the Queen of the Tearling, it follows a character that she has been kept in hiding until she is old enough to take the throne, and then as soon as the book starts is when she's old enough to take the throne, and assassins come after her right at the beginning of the book, and then she's just trying to survive, making her way to her throne, and then also trying to figure out how she's going to be a queen once she gets there. There are people clearly that want her dead. There are people that are comfortable with their positions of power that they have held onto the whole time that she has been kept in hiding. They don't want to let that power go. I thought it was so intriguing, and I have seen such mixed things. Kind of the same for Bloodsong. I've seen such mixed things about the sequels. The nice thing, though, is that in saying that a few different times, because I have put these both on TBR so much, a lot of you have said, I actually think some of people's reactions are maybe a little more so, not that they're dramatic, but that it's not that bad. When you keep going with the series, maybe some people were really caught up in what they thought it was going to be. Like, I know Bloodsong, the whole book follows Valen, and then in the sequels, you get other perspectives. And there was a lot of fans that just didn't want other perspectives. Queen of the Tearling, I've heard, goes in a very bizarre direction, and a lot of people didn't like the direction it went into. But I think coming back to these and knowing those things, then maybe it won't bother me. Or maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe I'll hate the sequels, and I'll be sad that I reread them only to have the stories go in directions I didn't like. Next up is a book, I've mentioned it a few times recently, that would be His Majesty's Dragon. I'm hoping to pick this up very soon and then keep going with the series. I really enjoyed His Majesty's Dragon when I picked it up years and years ago, but it's just been so long. I actually remember certain scenes pretty vividly. If you don't know, this is an alternate history where during the Napoleonic era, there were dragons, and those dragons were used as an air force. And we follow a man who is the handler of a dragon. He finds it, and it imprints on him, and then he becomes its handler, and they have this bond, and the dragons talk, and they're basically like little puppies when they're first born, and they're so cute. I remember Temeraire being so cute, and then he's growing into a big, strong dragon who wants to fight bad guys, and it's so precious, but also there's some really, really sad things that happen in this book, and I'm just excited, though, to continue on with Temeraire's journey. After that is a book that I feel like nobody knows exists, and that would be Viking Warrior. I picked this up, I'm pretty sure when I was a teenager, and I really liked it. It's historical fiction, it's not fantasy, and it follows a young man who was born a slave. So his mother used to be Irish nobility, and when the Vikings came, they took her and they basically made her a slave. And the man who took her, it's a very heavy setup, but it's also one that you're like, I mean, stuff like that probably happened and it was probably awful. So for a long time, this Viking chieftain made this woman kind of like a wife in a sense, because his own wife had died and he had children and he wanted a woman to help raise his kids. And he was, quote unquote, kind of nice to her. But, not exactly, because she didn't have equality. But you know what I'm saying. And so they actually grew to kind of care for one another. But then he actually ends up marrying someone else. And that woman obviously is like, I don't like this girl being basically your wife. So she's a slave. Let's keep her in her place. And he did have a child with her, though, and that child is the main character of the story, Halfdan. So Halfdan, despite being the son of a chieftain and a princess, is a slave. And when his father, the very beginning of the story, this isn't a spoiler, at the very beginning of the story, his father comes back from a raid, and he's clearly dying. And he wants Halfdan's mother to die with him, to go with him to Valhalla, and she makes the demand that she will go with him if he allows his son to no longer be a slave. And that is the setup for the story. You have this man who his whole life has basically been treated as property, and now he is given the status that would have come with his bloodline, and he's trying to fit into this new world. It's done really well. It's one of those stories where as you're reading it, you feel like you're in that time period because the author has so much knowledge of Vikings and of this time. I remember really, really, really liking it. And then there were sequels, and I read the sequels, and I really liked the sequels. And then this author had one of those situations where just not great things happened with publishing. There's a lot, I don't want to speak for him, he has spoken for himself, so I will try to find a link where he explains what happened. But he basically wasn't allowed to release the sequel until after his contract was up, but at that point it had been so long that now his books weren't on shelves anymore. And I always wanted to keep going with the series, but I need to reread the first 3. Last, we have Vespertine by Margaret Rodgerson. I actually just read this one not long ago when it came out, which it came out at the end of 2021. And I was surprised at just how much there was to the magic in this. And if we do get a sequel to it, I will have to reread it for sure, because I want to make sure I really have a strong grasp on the magic system before getting into the next one. Even within this one, as I was reading it, I felt like I needed to go back and reread it. It's a magic system that revolves around different kinds of spirits and relics. They actually have in the back, it says the hierarchy of spirits, and it lists all the different kinds. It says the order of the innocents is the first order. The second order, souls lost to the forces of nature. Third order, souls lost to illness and disease. So there's like all these different orders. And they reference them in the book. Our main character is very familiar with them, and I was like, I'm not familiar with these. I need to be more familiar with these. So if we get a sequel, I'm going to reread this one and then go into the next one. There are other books that I would love to reread, but as of right now, this year, those are my main priority. Let me know if there's any books that you need to reread. Have you faced similar situations as me with some of the things I mentioned? Are you hoping to reread some of the same exact books as me? Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.